Hey there, welcome back to Hiking for Health. CA stands for California, and this is another commentary, or I like to call sometimes the feedback loop trail, because it's kind of cool getting feedback and comments from folks, and then sometimes those comments spark more talk about the topic that they're on, or things like that. So I kind of like to do these every once in a while. So these will be from about October-ish through December. All the comments I've gotten between October and December, they can be on any kind of topics that the comments came to. I mean, sometimes a video will be up for months, and then all of a sudden somebody somewhere will watch it and, oh, I want to comment on that. So these won't be necessarily all from videos, although most of them are between that I put out between October and December. But the comments I received are between that. So, but before we get into that, hey, how do you like the old COVID-19 look, huh? Yeah, we got some major Portuguese hair going on here, and yeah, why shave if I'm not going out, right? I mean, you guys don't mind, right? I hope not, because that's how it is. So anyway, let's get into the comments. And the first one we're going to goes back to Hiker Homily 102, which, if you remember, was my kind of rant about racism existing on the trail. And this is, I believe, from Facebook. This is Jessica Buchanan. Great video. Thanks for sharing your thoughts. It's a great point that dangerous bear encounters on the trail are super rare, but people don't have much of an issue bringing that up over and over again, but get all up in arms about discussing racism, which is a much more common issue. Appreciate you being open to the discussion. Yeah, and that was one of the points I made, if you remember in the video, was some of the quote-unquote arguments against even just talking about the fact that racism on the trail exists. Was, well, it's so rare that why even bother discuss it? Okay, well, a lot of things that we do in hiking are rare, and yet we talk about them all the time anyway. Actual bear attacks, rare. Bear encounters, a little more prevalent now in certain parts of the country. I've had quite a few myself in my years of backpacking and stuff, but I mean, it's still rare to actually have a bad encounter with the bear, but we talk about that all the time. And there's just a bunch of other things that is, yeah, it just doesn't happen hardly ever on the trail. Most hikers go out and have a great time and stuff like that, but we still talk about this particular topic. So why is it different when the topic is racism on the trail? Oh, because it's uncomfortable, right? Especially if you have certain colored skin, it may be trauma for you, or it may be, oh, I think they're pointing fingers at me just because of my skin color. And that's usually not the case, but, you know, feeling like that, oh, why do you have to feel like that? Are you feeling guilty about something? What's up with that? You know, just kind of just odd. So, yeah, thank you for that comment. And also from Hiker Homily 102, Hazel Delgado says, good vid. OMG, so on point and great examples of the comments when people are triggered by just bringing it up. And then she goes on to talk about how she was in a large women's group. She was an ambassador for one of the largest California women's groups, volunteered time for them. I assume she's talking about like a hiking group or an environmental group and things like that. And then when they brought up the topic of racism, they didn't want to have anything to do with this. So she ended up leaving that group because they were doing the whole denial thing. We're going to pretend it doesn't exist, and that'll make it go away type of thing. So thank you for the comment, Hazel. And unfortunately, that's a big thing. That's usually the biggest pushback there. Most people just, oh, we're not even going to talk about it, you know, type of thing. It's unfortunate. Moving on, got a comment on my 5 on Food episode about noon, the not the time of day, but the electrolyte drink. From Facebook, Rob Davidson says, I like noons without caffeine, I'm sorry, without caffeine, and use them a lot year round. I do get on my soapbox about everyday hikers spending big money on runners' complex gels and concoctions or sugar tubes, and that is my problem. Hikers can also supplement their electrolyte needs with oranges and bananas in their diet. A small Nalgene full of orange juice in the afternoon on a day hike can be a real boost That's extremely true. There's quite a few foods. In fact, I've done a few episodes of different foods that are out there that are in high in electrolytes that you can have that help replace those kinds of things. And that's very true. Sometimes certain fruit juices and things like that give you that extra sugar boost and things. Again, I like Noon because it is plant-based, it is caffeine-free, and just kind of helps you get that nice subtle replacement. Sometimes helps flavor the water a little better without the water being like syrupy sweet like a lot of the sports drinks are. And he makes a good point also, Mr. Davidson, about some hikers, and I have seen them spending money on these special gel things. Now, my wife is a runner, and for quite a while, and she may be getting back to it once COVID stops shutting down all these big races and stuff like that. She runs half marathons. Now, for those kinds of super endurance things, absolutely, those gels are a big help. They're not a waste of money when it comes to that. But if you're just your average everyday hiker and you're doing these, nice hikes and stuff like that, even if they're tough hikes going uphill and all that kind of stuff, you don't necessarily need to spend a lot of money on these super ultra runner gels and energy things and stuff like that. There's a lot of things out there, like Rob Davidson suggests, just even simple things like orange juice and bananas and things like that. Big time. Really a big help to get your body back into dealing with that. So thanks for the comment, Rob. Appreciate it very much. Moving on to another 5 on food. When I talked about ramen, you people and your couscous, and by you people I mean hikers, and your couscous thing. And I know I'm one of them. I put out a 5 on food myself, all about couscous and how it is a staple for me. But I have to tell you, what I mentioned, I didn't say what I was going to talk about. I just talked about how I was going to talk about a breakfast thing, and everyone assumed I was talking about couscous. I've already talked about couscous, you guys. Leave the couscous alone. But we've got John Wimmer, of course. Couscous for the win. We've got Gwen Burgeon. Agree, couscous is the best. Cook it and dump in a packet of chicken. Absolutely. Gregory Oates, however, came up with something that I actually had never even thought of, and I should have, because it's so simple. It's a no-brainer. That breakfast couscous, even some brown sugar, almond slivers, and I agree that you know what, it never occurred to me, but you do. You get the plain couscous that is unflavored, or you just get the couscous and you cold soak it or heat it up, and you don't put the flavoring packet in it, but you add the types of flavors that you might want to have, like at breakfast, such as brown sugar, maybe a little bit of fruit, things like that, and wow, all of a sudden you've got a breakfast meal, and that works really well. This takes us to Hiker Homily number 107, talking about prepping and researching before a hike. John Wimmer says, woohoo, my first YouTube shout out. Great homily. I'm pleased to say I haven't missed anything on pre-planning for next October. You didn't mention checking out any videos from hikers who have already done the trail, and you're absolutely right, John. Thank you for letting me know. You're totally right, because that is part of my research that I do. Before I attempted the PCT, before I did the Lost Coast Trail, I really would love to do, oh my gosh, now the freaking island has completely blown me away, down by Long Beach and things like that. I've watched videos and stuff like that, so it is. That's a big thing, and John, that's not going to be your only shout-out. I'm going to be doing a lot of shout-outs, because you and I are hiking partners now, and especially coming up on October. Yeah, rim to rim trail, Grand Canyon, we're going to do it. Anyway, yes, that is a good source. You have to watch out who you're watching, and sometimes some of these hikers kind of have weird attitudes about things. So kind of weigh how they do things. Doesn't necessarily mean it's how you're going to do it, but that is a good way to check out a trail, is to watch other people who have done the trail and posted about it on places like YouTube and things like that. Thanks, John. Also, Hiker Homily 107. Lee Bouchard says, prep for the trail by doing this kind of research. I have found other people that don't at all, and that's not for me. Hey, you know what? Same thing for me, Lee. I know there are folks out there that just like the heck with it. They just throw stuff in a backpack and they go. And I admit I've done a few of those trips when it's to a certain area, especially up by the Castle Peak, Boreal Donner area. I have hiked there so many times. There's not any really research that I can do about that area that I that's going to teach me anything new, except for maybe what the current things are for that. You know, is there currently snow there? How's the water levels? Things like that. But for the most part, I know where the streams are. I know where the trails are and things like that. I still bring my stuff for caution. I've always got a map with me, a compass with me, and things like that. But I really don't have to research that bad. But if you're just like, wow, I've never been to this place before, you just throw stuff in a backpack and go. I mean, power to you. It's a free world right now, so go ahead. But that's just not the way I would do the backpacking thing. I'd like to do a little more. And also, Joaquin Miles, thanks a lot for the shout out, saying it's good info. Appreciate even that kind of simple feedback. I really do. I appreciate it. Heading back to 5 on Food, when I talked about toaster pasties, Grace Aerosmith from Facebook says, we took so many down to the Grand Canyon that we were trying to give them away, so we didn't have to pack them out. Sadly, no takers. That is a bummer, and that might be a future Hiker Homily episode, how that is a big mistake. One that I've made several times on backpacking trips myself is us humans' tendency to bring too much food on a trip. And then, when you're on one of the big trails like the Pacific Crest Trail, the Appalachian Trail, or something like that, there's hiker boxes that if you just have too much, you can just leave it in the hiker box. Somebody else may want it, and that's fine. But on a smaller trail like the Grand Canyon rim to rim, things like that, that's a problem. You're just going to end up carrying that around with you, and it's unfortunate. So, but thanks for the comment, Grace. I totally appreciate it. What haven't I covered here? Oh, yes. Another one on toaster pastries, Steps by Katie. I can imagine it's perfect when you're out hiking and backpacking. I often bring some kind of toast when out on the trail. Have a great day. Thank you very much. You have a great day yourself. And it is. It's actually a very good breakfast and simple. And toaster pastries, and again, for people who are like me, who are kind of experimenting, or if you're full blown into the stoveless backpacking and you're not heating any of your food up, they work just fine. They don't have to be toasted to work, so you can still get a full meal out of those things without heating them up. So they're very versatile. They come in a lot of flavors. I really think there are. And Mr. John Wimmer, you're always sneaking in there with your, but how do you rate them for second breakfast? Very funny. You're going to have to ask a hobbit about that. All right. Are we on the final one? I think we are. Finally, from the All Trails video. I did the media review on the app All Trails and Lion on Water. All right. I like that name, actually. Lion on Water. I believe on YouTube commented, I want to second your suggestion to do additional research. And he's talking about, aside from just using All Trails to find trails and things like that. I went hiking in SoCal, but I'm from NorCal, with some friends, and we were using different apps. I was using All Trails, they were using Strava, and we had conflicting information about how to get to a hot spring. I later learned the area floods, and All Trails had the old USGS trail, which no longer existed. And that's one of the things I pointed out about All Trails, at least the version I have, which is not the pro version. It's just the free version and things like that, is because a lot of the information is user generated. Anyone, it's kind of the same problem you can have with things like Wikipedia. Anyone can pretty much enter anything, and there's, at this moment, not gigantic checks and balances, or if there are checks and balances, they're slow to come in. You know what I mean? So you end up problems like Lion on Water had, where you're using this app and it's saying the trail is right there, but it's not there because the app's information was old. It was put in by somebody else a long time ago. Nobody has updated it, and the trail isn't there anymore. It's in a completely different place. Some of the other apps have it, but All Trails does not. And so that can be a drawback for All Trails. Like I said in the video, most of the time I'm using All Trails to try and just, hey, where are different places I can hike? Okay, that is a trail there. Looks like it's an established trail. That looks like a good established trail. And then from there, I do more research to make sure that is an established trail. Maybe get a map for it. If it's in a regional park or a state park or something, usually you can go online and get maps downloaded for those trails and things like that. I'm going to go beyond All Trails. I'm not just going to look at All Trails and say, okay, that's all the information I need, and then go try and hike that trail. I'm going to look for more. I highly recommend it. Lion Water agrees. Thank you for the comment. And hey, that's commentary, feedback loop trail. For this time, look for another one. Probably about every 3 months, I think, will work. And it's also going to depend on how many comments I get. This time, in that 3-month period, I got quite a few comments, as you can see, which is kind of cool. Love the feedback, even the simple feedbacks telling me, hey, that was a good video, or I don't agree with this, but hey, thanks for putting it out there anyway. Whatever you want to do, as long as it's done respectfully, it's cool, awesome. I do appreciate the feedback. Thanks a lot, and you know what? We'll see you next time.